Episode 14, The Broken Radio. It was a nice, cloudy Sunday afternoon as Sean and his wife Patricia was strolling down the street and noticed one of their new neighbors, Earl and Sarah, having a garage sale. They walked over to browse through some of the retro items that their neighbors were selling, which included an old radio which looked like it came from the 1960s. With its small frame, rectangular shape, and brown leather cover, the radio had a paper signage in front of it that says, "May not work anymore." Even knowing so, Sean thought to himself that it would look great in his living room. Sean walked over to Earl and asked, "Hey, Earl, how much are you selling this radio for?" "Hey, Sean, that's $30, said Earl. "You sure you want to let go of it? It still looks fantastic," asked Sean. Yeah, man, no worries. I saw it in the living room when we moved in, and I think since it doesn't work anymore, it's better to sell it to someone who would appreciate its design," said Earl. "All right, thanks a lot, man. I'll take it," said Sean excitedly as Patricia shook her head in disagreement with the purchase. As she walked away from the garage sale, Patricia said to Sean, "A broken radio, huh? That's what's got your attention?" Sean laughed and said, "I know, but it will look great on our coffee table. Trust me." That evening at home, Sean placed his radio on his coffee table at a corner of the living room. This was his favorite spot where he would sit in his comfy chair every night to either read or to work on his laptop. Just to give it a shot, Sean tried for an hour to fix the radio. But after admitting that the radio was even way past its golden years, Sean placed his radio back down and had it as decor, as he originally planned. As Patricia was in the bedroom while Sean was reading in his favorite spot, static noise suddenly came on. Shocked, Sean looked up, turned his head to look at the radio, and noticed that the sound was coming from the radio. But almost in an instant, the radio turned off again. Sean paused and thought to himself whether the radio really turned on itself, or did he imagine it? Sean ignored it and continued reading again. Suddenly, the radio turned on by itself again. And this time, the static noise stretched for long enough to affirm Sean's initial thought that the sound wasn't something he imagined. It was something he definitely heard. Sean placed his book down on the coffee table, got up from his comfy chair, and squatted in front of the radio. Sean stared right at the radio, trying to figure out why it suddenly turned on and off on its own. The weird thing was that the on switch on top of the radio was off throughout. Sean thought to himself that there might have been some wire triggered inside to cause this to happen. As he was deep in his thoughts, suddenly the static noise came back on again. This time, the noise was followed by voices talking on the radio. Spoken in a foreign language, it sounded like a radio talk show, and a listener seemed to have called in to give a message. The listener sounded like a middle-aged lady, sounding so delighted to have called in. After about a minute, it sounded like the listener was saying goodbye. The radio once again turned off on its own. Sean held up the radio and looked at it from every angle to see if there is any alternative button to turn the radio on. However, Sean couldn't find any. Sean was now confused and unsure of how he can turn it on again. Deciding to call it a day and try again the next day, Sean placed back the radio on the table and headed to bed. The following day, Sean brought the radio back to Earl to let him know what he experienced the night before. "Hey, Earl, last night something weird happened. The radio turned itself on and off a couple of times, and then a foreign oldies talk show came on before it turned off again. Do you happen to know if there is another way to turn it on that I don't know of before?" asked Sean. That's weird. This is a really old basic radio with the basic functions of turning on and off and changing channels. That's it. So I don't really know why. Oh, okay, maybe we can head over to the previous owner's place to ask her about it. It's about a 30-minute drive from here. I'll go with you, said Earl. You sure? Asked Sean, not wanting to take up too much of Earl's time. Yeah, no worries. I have the day off, so I can go. Don't worry about it, said Earl. The two of them drove over to the place, and a middle-aged lady named Mia opened the door. Upon recognizing Earl as her buyer from her previous home, and Sean as her previous neighbor, Mia said, Hey, Earl, Sean, nice to see you guys. What brings you here? Oh, actually, come on in first. Well, thanks, Mia. Actually, Sean recently bought this radio from me from a recent garage sale that I had. It's the one that you didn't want anymore, said Earl as he made his way into Mia's home together with Sean. Oh, you bought it, but it's beyond repair and just sits there, said Mia to Sean. Yeah, I know, but when I first saw it, I really liked how it looked and wanted to place it in my living room, said Sean. I'm glad there was someone who still appreciates it. My grandma bought it for me when I was a kid. I loved it, and not long after she passed on, the radio didn't work anymore, and we had it seated in our living room for years, said Mia. Oh yeah, that's the reason why we're here, though, said Sean, suddenly remembering why they were there. What do you mean? Asked Mia. Strangely, last night, the radio turned on and off itself several times. That was fine, because I thought that maybe it was just some wiring inside that was triggered. What was weirder was that an old talk show came on for a good minute before it finally turned off. Do you happen to know if the radio did that while you still had it previously? Asked Sean while looking at his radio. As Sean placed the radio on Mia's living room table, the static sound suddenly came back on. There it is, said Sean excitedly, seeing how the radio turned on by itself again. What followed the static sound, strangely, was the same talk show again. And this sounds like the same exact show I heard yesterday, although I don't understand anything that the DJs or the guests are saying, said Sean. Sean and Earl looked at Mia, wondering why she stayed silent ever since the radio turned on its own. Mia, are you okay? Asked Earl, seeing how Mia was staring at the radio, as though she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Seeing how Mia's tears began to flow, Sean thought that Mia missed her radio and said, It's okay, Mia. You can have it if you miss it. It's all good. You can have it. I'm sure it means a lot to you. Finally, disrupting her silence, Mia said, I know you guys don't understand what they're talking about, but this show was recorded in the 1980s. This isn't live radio, and this channel doesn't exist anymore. And the guest that you're hearing is my grandma. Wait, are you sure, Mia? Asked Sean. I could never forget. She always reminded me of the day that she was able to call into the radio. In her message, she says that she loves me so much. She also said that she hopes that I like the radio that she bought for me for my birthday, since I always loved listening to hers. She hopes that I'll never forget her even after she passes on. She ends the call by saying, I love you very much, Mia, shared Mia with tears flowing down her cheeks. Sean and Earl sat there still stunned at what Mia had just told them. The radio then went back to the static noise before eventually turning off. How could I have forgotten the love, the memories we used to share, how she used to bring me to the playground after school and always pick me up when I fall. And when I had bruises from my falls, she would always paste on a cute bandage to make me feel all better, said Mia. It's okay, Mia. Sometimes we forget about the most important things in life because we get too caught up with our busy lives, said Earl. Here, keep it. Yeah, Mia. You don't have to pay me back. I really mean it. Your grandma wants you to keep it, too, said Sean, still quite shocked at what was happening. Thanks a lot, Sean, and thanks, guys, for reminding me about something really important in my life that I forgot, said Mia as she wiped her tears. Sean left Mia's home that day without his radio, but felt ever so fulfilled for making someone else's day. For Mia, she was reminded of what was actually important to her. From then on, the radio was placed in Mia's new living room, even though it never did turn on again.